Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society, bringing you our nightly update regarding the tropical basin and our highlighted area of interest in the Atlantic Basin. Plus, we've got a new tropical storm off into portions of the eastern Pacific that may, going down the road, could threaten the Hawaiian Islands. Too early to tell, but some of the ensemble signals become quite uncertain as we get out into the forecast region. That could bring in inclement weather to the folks there in the Hawaiian Islands. So let's go ahead and get started, but real quick. Our very own Kylie was in the student section of the Florida State Alabama football game last night, and she took this particular picture here, which has since caused my phone to go into absolute chaos because I posted it for other folks to see. And I've had to then since turn off the notifications on my phone because it has gone absolutely crazy. They did win. They rushed the field and created a lifetime memory. So I just wanted to share the picture with everybody here tonight to show that, yes, Kylie took this picture while in the student section of the Florida State Alabama game last night, and it was, from my understanding, an absolutely amazing experience. And I couldn't be happier for her. All right, now jumping out here to the Atlantic, we have no change. We're currently at a 30% chance of development over the next 7 days, with a near 0% chance of development over the next 48 hours. I would definitely agree with that near zero over the next 48 hours. It does not look it's a very broad area of low pressure, but it does not look very coherent at all or consolidated. As you can see here, it is forecast to move westward at around 15 miles an hour throughout the week. So let's take a look at our models here. What we have is the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. This is the 850 millibar level, searching for cyclonic vorticity and or spin. This is approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. Now, as we'll run this out, we'll get this out to day 4. We don't really see much on the Euro. It is still very elongated and kind of embedded within the monsoon trough itself. The GFS is starting to try to stand the trough up, but again, it's got multiple small little pockets of vorticity there, so not much of a coherent signal at all. We get out to day 5, the GFS is trying to get itself organized as to where the Euro is starting to focus energy, but is nowhere near organized to the point of any type of name system. Now, obviously, by day 6, we have certain tropical cyclone development here associated with the GFS. The Euro is again beginning to focus the energy, but there is one glaring difference already. The Euro is much faster to the west than what the GFS is. The GFS is still back here at approximately 35 degrees west, give or take a degree or two, and the Euro is closing in on the lower 40s. So there is going to be a considerable amount of track spread just due to the forward speed of the system itself. Now, as we get out to day 7, one thing that I do notice is that the Euro and the GFS both have signals of tropical cyclone potential there, but they also have a very robust high pressure system. So, but we also still have that persistent East Coast troughing right here. So we're going to go ahead and run this forward from day 7 out to day 10 and see how we progress. Now, the Euro, by the time we get to day 8, certainly has a coherent system that has developed. And one thing that I will notice here that the Euro does not pick up on, but the GFS does, is this small little area of spin here, day 8, just west of the Windward Islands. So that'll be an interesting feature. As you could see, as we continue to go forward, it is a small little pocket of vorticity that never really gets its act together, but could bring some inclement weather there to portions of the Dominican Republic. Now, by the time that we get out to day 10, we've noticed that the GFS has had a significant reduction in overall vorticity signal and its signature here. The Euro, on the other hand, has decided that it's time to show its cards. We're going to look further into this to see exactly how it all plays out. So what we have here is the Euro on the left with the upper left and lower left frames. We have the GFS on the right with the upper right and the lower right hand frames. The upper two frames represent the 500 millibar level, which is approximately 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. The bottom two frames, they represent the 700 millibar level, which is approximately 2 miles above the ocean surface. So we're looking for the moisture between the ranges of 2 to 3.5 miles above the ocean surface with these particular graphics. So as we continue to run this forward, we note that we didn't really have development here by day 4. And then by day 5, we started to get something where the GFS is concerned. Now, the GFS shows a little bit of dry air in the 700 millibar level, but not a lot. An extremely moist environment to the south and southwest of that developing circulation. At the 500 millibar level, that's where things get a little bit different, because we can see that the area of concern has a great amount of dry air there at about 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. The Euro also wants to agree, but then we also know that the Euro at day 5 does not have any type of development. So we're going to run this forward. We're going to get this out to day 7. Now, at this point, the Euro is starting to consolidate. As we could see here, we're starting to stand up with the moisture, and we're starting to get a little bit of a cohesive pocket of moisture there in the lower levels. The GFS, as you could see, has an organized system, but it is dealing with a considerable amount of dry air being drawn into the core of the storm. This is what leads to the reduction in its overall signal from day 7 to day 10. As we can see with the Euro, we do have a little bit of dry air that is trying to infiltrate right there, but we don't have it down here in the 700 millibar level. So let's go forward and get it out to day 10. We'll run it forward, and as we could see, the Euro really kind of doesn't get a lot of that dry air associated with the system. But when we looked at the 850 millibar vorticity, we had a good signature of a tropical cyclone. But please look here on the Euro. It is almost encapsulated by dry air. So the moment that we get any shear that starts to infiltrate or impact this system, we are then going to see this dry air potentially take a little bit more of an impact than obviously it hasn't much so far. The 700 millibar level, we can see this dry air trying to wrap around the system again. And it's breaking it away from the moisture belt here associated with the intertropical convergence zone. So that could be a very interesting feature. Now, if we compare that to what our GFS has for us, well, this thing is a mess because as you can see here, it is a moisture plume, but really has very little cohesive signal to it. Very little is actually falling apart at this point. So again, we finally got it off the mainland for the most part, but it's still way too early to make any type of determination. If we look at our wind shear and see how this may impact the system as we continue to have this move further and further off the coast, we do know that there is an upper level low to its north that could help ventilate the system, and that is what has kind of triggered some of the GFS early development is this ventilation. Erase that. Our storm is here. This ventilation right here to its north and this belt of wind is allowing exhaust to take place. On top of that, we also have an exhaust channel that exists here. So without a lot of shear in and around the system itself, if it could find itself a little pocket of good, environment, it could, theoretically take a hold and begin to develop. The Euro, on the other hand, has a very broad area of circulation. We have that ventilation to the north, but no cohesive system to its south there. So let's go ahead and run this a little further forward. We're going to get out to day 7. Now, at this point, the Euro is taking advantage of the same belt of kind of the same setup of what we had with this shear here. Now, whether the storm gets hit a little bit with some of that shear, that remains to be seen. But right now, it's looking good as far as that model is concerned at day 7. If we look at the GFS is getting too far north into this belt of shear. That is going to then help to introduce some of that dry air. And as we know from the previous models that we've looked at, the storm begins to become disrupted and eventually falls apart. As far as a tropical cyclone is concerned, this is more of a wave axis at this point. The Euro, on the other hand, has a well-developed and a hurricane at this point at 974 millibars. This is definitely you're getting into the category 2 range at this point, depending on the size of the center of circulation. But potentially some encouraging news is that there looks to be a trough right here. And that could impose a little bit of shear on that depending on how this evolves. And even if it's there, being that we're 10 days out, I would imagine things are still going to adjust, adapt, and change. Now, I know we've been looking at this over the last few nights due to the stalled out frontal boundary and the persistent fronts that keep coming down off the United States and then stalling out. For our folks here into the Florida Peninsula, as you can see, and we run it, we've got the NOAA blend of models here on the left and the WPC official forecast on the right. And if we run this out 7 days, they're both in pretty decent agreement. The WPC has a little bit more rainfall on some of their totals along the coast, which I would potentially agree with, due to the fact that the flow across the state, the general flow will be from west to east, and then when the sun comes up and the land begins to heat up, especially into the central portions of the state, that enacts a sea breeze to the east coast. And as those two air masses collide, that east coast, you could definitely see some rain. We're looking at Jonathan. You better get your floaties out, sir. Because if I run this forward, even on the NOAA blended models, and run it out an extra 3 days, I'm adding almost an extra inch, in some cases 2 inches, to these totals down here in the southern portions of the state of Florida, south of the Lake Okeechobee region and corridor there. So it's gonna rain, folks. It's certainly gonna rain. All right, taking a look at our models, as we could see for the trend that we had yesterday, we didn't have a lot. The overnight run had a little bit more of a signal. Here this afternoon, we've got good signal. All right, now's the time to just make sure that you've got, your kits ready, just in case, especially for the folks out here into the Leeward Islands. It seems that everything wants to kind of try to at least get north of the islands, but as we've seen with Aaron, some can get a little bit too uncomfortably close and leave some residual or peripheral impacts. Because obviously the impacts of a tropical cyclone extend well outside of the cone of uncertainty at times, and Aaron was the perfect example of that. But as we could see through day 10, we definitely have an increase in the signal here tonight with the Euro. Now, a lot of these models and ensemble members do have a northerly component and do show that this gets, potentially north of 20 before it reaches 60 degrees west. So we'll have to, continue to monitor the trends in the models. But right now, for the Euro Legacy, the trend in the model is positive for development. So it is increasing in its development frequency. If we compare that to the Euro AI ensembles, as we could see, they certainly have some there. We're going to go back to the 6Z, had a signal, had a 0Z, our 18Z, and that's what we were looking at last night. So as you could see, we do have a little bit of increase in some of the signals. The 12Z is kind of backed off a little bit, potential intensity of those signals, but we definitely see some signals here associated with the 12Z, and overall it would be a positive signal return. We've grown in frequency. If we compare that to the GEFS, now I'll have to scroll down here just a little bit to show everybody this was last night. Now it's going to be very obvious that we've had a positive return on this. If we look at the 18Z from last night and then the 0Z, we had a good amount of signal. The 6Z shifted it further to the south and to the west, increased that, kept that increased signal. And then the 12Z maybe backs off a little bit on the signal, but overall, compared to what we were looking at last night to tonight, we definitely have a significant shift to the south with this particular disturbance, and we have a positive amount, an increase there. So how does this compare with the Google DeepMind? Now, first off, Google DeepMind has us. We're gonna have to watch for Hawaii, folks. As you can see with Kiko, but we're working on the Atlantic, so we're gonna come back over here. Now, right now, I have the Google DeepMind and its former model, so we're going to see the blue dots and the green dots. We've already gone over the euro, so there's no need to turn on the orange. Now, as I continue to run this forward, here we are, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, right there. We are at day 7. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this for everybody, and as you could see, the former model of the Google DeepMind, or that Weather Next Gen, it shows a wide variety of potential development and an unbelievably wide amount of solutions. So much so that we are talking about, let's see here, 54 degrees west all the way to 88 degrees west, and yeah, so, and down here, way down here into the Caribbean. So right now there is so much uncertainty if you look at this, that it is unbelievable. And it's certainly too early to make any type of determination, but it did show, everything has shown a consistency to, at least at some point, try to turn back up and out due to the trough protection that we have on the East Coast. Now, if it gets and it slides too far to the south and then tries to make its turn, that's when we have problems. So as long as this thing gets above 20 degrees north before it reaches 60 degrees west, it's going to save the folks down here into the island chain, give us a little bit more room, and then all we have to do is just make sure that our friends out here in Bermuda and or up north here in Atlantic Canada don't see any kind of significant impacts. Well, Kyle, there's always the Philippines, brother. They get hit by numerous storms every single year. Many, many, many tropical cyclones every year. Now, taking a quick look at our MJO forecast for the week, as we can see, we've got a signal coming through, and the regular GFS wants to pull it out like this. The GEFS, on the other hand, wants to curl it much quicker in time like this. I will take the prior over the latter, and if we take a look at the ensembles, we'll erase that. There is quite a bit of uncertainty where the ensembles are concerned. Hopefully, it is not a quick spin around and a quick turnaround of the MJO. We would like for it to just, if it's going to move through, but just move through and hurry up and get out. Don't turn around and come back in like 30 days. Take 45, take 50, take 60. Take as long as you'd like after you move out, but just don't turn around and come back in like 30 days. We don't want to see a double up. We know that we should see an MJO cycle roll through, but we don't want to see that second one at the end of October, so to say, or the middle part of October. I'd rather not, being a resident of the state of Florida. I'm good on that, especially for our Gulf Coast folks. So a quick look at Earth Null tonight. There's not really a lot to show on Earth Null. As we can see, the broad area of spin associated with our area of interest out here, it's broad. Like I said, it's huge. If we compare that 850 level to what we've got with Kiko out here that we're going to talk about here in just a moment, you can see a considerable difference. Kiko's definitely a tropical cyclone, as to where this thing is just a broad area of showers and thunderstorms at this point. As far as our trough is concerned, as you can see, we do have another area of low pressure. This was noted by the ensembles. Non-tropical in nature, will continue to move out into the open waters of the Atlantic. Our dust model. I'm still not sold on whether I'm going to keep this frame up after tonight, but as you could see, when we get into day 7, day 8, we may get a little bit of a plume out here that actually can make it further than about 35-40 degrees west. And if this signal continues to show, then we may keep it up until this dies. I am certainly not anticipating many more plumes of dust being able to make it very far across the tropical Atlantic. We're running out of the Saharan air layer season. Again, our quick look at our global tropics hazards outlook from the Climate Prediction Center through the first half of September. As you could see here in both graphics, we are anticipating the chance of development into the Atlantic Basin through the middle of September, with getting closer to the middle of September having a chance of increasing odds of tropical cyclone development. So make sure you stay tuned, folks. Hurricane season is far from over. As we could see, we are coming up on our climatological peak of hurricane season. We are here at August 31st, last day of August. Our peak, our climatological peak, is September 10th. So as you can see, we've got a lot of opportunities still to go for tropical cyclone activity. So please, folks, don't let your guard down yet. The season is far from over. All right, jumping out into the Eastern Pacific, we have our disturbance number 1. It doesn't look very good on satellite at all. I'll show you that here in a second. Currently has a 50% chance of development over the next 48 hours and an 80% chance of development over the next 7 days. And then we also have Tropical Storm Kiko. Now, if we look at the current satellite, we can see Kiko here, located right here. And our other area of interest is this big blob and mess of just scattered showers and thunderstorms. I mean, if we were going to look at something, maybe right there, but I mean, we're really like desperately searching for something to look at that point. There's not really much there. Not yet. There's no real westerly winds associated with any type of low pressure development. But Kiko is definitely out there. Kiko is currently located at 14.4 north, 124.0 west, about 1,090 miles west-southwest of the southern tip of the Baja. Maximum sustained winds are 40 miles an hour. It is currently moving west at 9 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 1,006 millibars. Right now, there are no coastal watches or warnings in effect and no hazards affecting land. If we take a look at its forecast cone, as you can see, over the next 5 days, it's not going to be moving quickly. All right, and it is rather flat and maybe even a little bit of a southerly wobble or adjustment to its track. Now, when we get up here towards Hawaii, that's going to be the question in hand. The first 5 days, everything is forecast to be mostly west. But there is something interesting here in the forecaster's discussion in the third paragraph. Kiko is expected to encounter generally light vertical shear while it moves over sea surface temperatures that are around 27 degrees Celsius. After 72 hours, the cyclone is likely to move into a drier air mass that could inhibit strengthening despite the other favorable conditions. Based on this, the intensity forecast shows 72 hours of strengthening, followed by little change in strength at 96 and 120 hours. There are two uncertainties in this forecast. First, the rapid intensification indices of the ship's model are notably above their climatological norms, and that combined with Kiko's small core suggests that a period of rapid intensification could occur during the next 72 hours. Second, as mentioned earlier, any deviation of track slightly to the right of the forecast path could place the system over cooler waters that would slow or stop strengthening. The new intensity forecast is a little stronger than the previous forecast, and it lies near the intensity consensus. Right now, through up to 72 hours, they have Kiko going from a 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm up to a 90-mile-an-hour hurricane. But as noted, they keep the intensity the same through day 4 and day 5, but this is highly subject to change due to the uncertainties in the forecast. So it'll be something to watch. I would not be surprised if this thing decides that it's going to, maybe ramp up for a little bit. Maybe not, too overly strong, because as you could see, once it starts to pull north, all the models are in pretty decent agreement here that we may see it begin to start to weaken. But if you're at a 90-mile-an-hour hurricane and then you begin to weaken slowly due to cooler waters, maybe by the time that you hypothetically get near the Hawaiian Islands, you would be down to, say, 40, 45, 50 miles an hour. But if you're starting out at 120, 130, you still may be 60, 70 miles an hour by the time that you have weakened some. So it bears watching for sure. There is no guarantee that anything or any impact in any way, shape, or form is expected for the Hawaiian Islands, but it is recommended to keep a very close watch on the progression of Kiko as we continue to track it further and further to the west. The Euro ensembles do bring potentially, not a lot of them, but show maybe. The Euro AI shows the storm pulling up to the north and then weakening, never really getting its act together. But if it can get its act together, then it's starting off at a much higher rate of intensity that then the weakening would have to occur. And if we look at our other disturbance, the Euro AI really doesn't have a lot of them pulling up, or the Euro Legacy, my apologies, does not have a lot pulling up and to the right. The Euro AI is set at maybe about 65-35, with some of the ensembles turning up and to the right, maybe bringing in increased moisture there to the southwestern portions of the United States. Now, if we compare all these with the GEFS, as you could see here, we definitely have some signal. It really all depends upon how long can it stay south and then, potentially get its strength or intensity, and then it's going to start to pull north and begin to weaken. Can it do it in just the right place, at just the right intensity, and just the right timing to impact folks here in the Hawaiian Islands? It's still too early to tell, but we're certainly keeping a close eye on it. And if we look at our other disturbance, there are a few of the ensemble members that maybe want to try to pull some of this moisture up here into the southwestern United States, but few at best. So all in all, it doesn't look too bad. Jumping out to the Western Pacific, we have Invest 95W. Invest 94W is in front of it. It is currently not necessarily, developing, but a great amount of rain, plenty of thunderstorms, plenty of action, and, for Kyle, there you go, brother. The Philippines are right there. And trust me when I tell you, they get it. And here's the thing, they don't have much of a tropical cyclone season. They could get a storm literally any month of the year. There are months that where it would be more common to see, but it is not like they could see a storm. Rather, I've seen Category 5s in that basin in March, in the northern hemisphere in March. So, thankfully, no, it didn't hit nobody. But damn, it's March. You would not expect a Category 5 in the northern hemisphere in to where like we're like middle of spring, for God's sakes. Like it's crazy. All right, that's about all I have for everybody here tonight. If you guys got any questions, let me look here. All right. All right, I don't see any, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off tonight. We will be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central here on Facebook and YouTube. So come join us, bring any questions if you've got them, and we will look at the trends and see how the models have evolved over the last 24 hours. So have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you then. Good night.